Hi guys, welcome back to part 2, and we're talking about terminating decimals now. A terminating decimal is a decimal that when you're dividing out the fraction, it ends and you get a zero remainder. So unlike a repeating decimal that repeats on and on forever and you get the same remainder, this one will just end and you get a zero remainder. Sometimes it takes a few zeros. You might have to add a few zeros before it ends, but a terminating decimal will end. So take a look at 3/4 here. 3 goes in the house, top in, bottom out, and we have to add a decimal and a zero. 4 goes in to 30 7 times. We end up with 28 and 2 left over. We bring the zero down. It goes in 5 times, we get 20 exactly, and it ends. We get a zero remainder. We could continue adding zeros and put zeros up in our answer, but we don't need them. Remember, zeros at the end of the number do not affect the value, so we can just remove those and just leave it at 75 hundredths. And when you think about it, 3/4 of a dollar is 75 cents, so it makes sense. Okay, so regardless of the fraction, whether it's repeating or terminating, you're going to divide top in, bottom out. And this is just a chart of some common fractions. Some of them are repeating. If you look at 1/3 or 1/6 or 1/9, those are repeating decimals for answers, and the terminating ones, 1/2, half of a dollar is 50 cents, 1/4 of a dollar is 25 cents, 1/10 of a dollar is a dime, 0.10. So these are some that you should be familiar with. Okay. All right, again, we have some examples here of numbers that do not terminate. These are repeating decimals. You can see the line over it. The dots indicate repetition. If you were to divide 1/3, you would get 0.333. Same thing when you divide out 1/6, you would get a repeating decimal. Over here, we know for sure that they terminate. There's no line, there's no dots after it, indicating that they repeat. And if you divide out 1/8, it would also be a terminating decimal. Okay. Alright, so here's our first example. If you'd like to pause the video and figure this out, it says a recipe for a 6-foot sub calls for 1 3/4 pounds of cheese. You want to get the exact amount from the deli counter. What decimal number should the deli scale say on there when you purchase the cheese? So remember, that's a mixed number, and go ahead and divide out 3/4, and I'm going to go over the answer right now. Okay, so this 1 is a whole number, so you can leave that out in front, 1 point. Now we have 3/4. We're going to deal with the 3/4. We're going to divide top in, bottom out. Sorry, add another 0, we get 5, so we get 0.75, so 3/4 is 0.75, and that does make sense because if you think of 3/4, that's 75 cents, so 1.75 should read on the scale, and it's a terminating decimal because it ends in a 0 here. There's nothing else left over. Okay. Alright, so again, if you want to pause the video and try this one, we have a recipe for a 6-foot sub calls for 3 7/8 pounds of deli meat. You want to get the exact amount from the deli counter. What should the decimal number show on the digital scale? So go ahead and again, try this one, see if you can get the right answer. And I hope you get it right. And I'm going to go over the answer right now. So we're going to leave the 3 out in front, 3 point. And now we're going to deal with the 7/8. 0.64. We get 6 left over. And it goes in 7 times. We get 56. 4 left over. We're going to add another 0. And we get 5. So we get 3.875, which is choice C. Okay, so I hope you got that one right. Top in, bottom out, 7 in, 8 out. Add your decimal and divide, okay? All right, so now if we have a decimal and we want to convert back to a fraction, I have some notes here. You're going to read the decimal. You're going to put it into words. Say it. Actually say it out loud. This first one here would be 7 and, remember we always say and with the decimal point, 125, and we want to look at the place value, okay? So it's 125 tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So 7 and 125 thousandths. And so then you want to write what you say as a fraction. So I'm going to say it again. 7 and 125 thousandths. And then you're going to reduce the fraction down to simplest form. So we could divide and you could divide it down you could divide it by 25s. So we get 7 and 5 and let's see, 1,000. There's all the work. So we get 5/40ths. And then 5/40ths, you can reduce those by 5. Keep going. We get 7 and 1/8. So that's our match right here. 7 and 1/8. So that's how you change a decimal back over to a fraction. You read it in words, look at the place value, write it as a fraction, and then reduce it down into simplest form. Remember, when you're reducing, just to review reducing, which you should have done last year, whatever you divide the numerator by, you must also divide the denominator by the same thing, and it must go in there evenly. So like 25 can divide 125 evenly 5 times, and 1,000 can be divided by 25 and we get 40. And then you keep dividing until you end up with either a prime or the numerator can no longer be divided by a common factor that goes with the denominator. So if there's no other common factor that divides both of them, then it's in simplest form. Okay, so let's look at the second one. We have 7 and 28 hundredths. So we're going to write 7 and 28 hundredths, and again then you would reduce it down. This would be 7 and 5 tenths. 7 and 5 tenths reduces down to 7 and 1/2. Okay, and then we have 7 and 6 tenths. And we can divide 6 and 10 by 2. So we get 7 and 3/5. Okay, and hi guys. Alright, so we're reducing 7 and 28 over 100 to 7/25. And if you notice that 7/25 isn't a choice up there, so we have 7 and 7/25. And if you look at the choices, we have 7 and 21/75. Take a look at this. If I multiply this by 3, I would get 21, and multiply this by 3, I would get 75. So this fraction here is not in simplest form, so we just had to multiply the numerator and denominator to match up with our choice here. So 7 and 21/75. Okay, for that one. All right, so here's the last one, 8 1/5, and we go ahead and divide. The 8 stays out in front. You divide the 1/5 and you end up with 0.2. So we have 8.2, choice D. And check out these. What I'd like you to do is to figure out 4/11s and answer those questions, and I'll see you back in enrichment. Okay? Thanks and have a great day. Thanks for watching.